Hey, it's Felicia Pride, Head Honey and Honey Child, and host of It's Good Over Here. Many of you may know, but I started as an author before transitioning to writing for the screen. And all my life, I wanted to write romance, which I've been able to do in my film and TV career. Shout out to Really Love and Tender and Look Back at It and Bel Air. But I never got a chance to do so as an author until now. I'm so excited to announce the upcoming release of my first romance novella entitled Come Close. It's also Honey Child's first foray into publishing fiction. You can pre-order Come Close now on Amazon. Here's a quick synopsis. After years toiling in Hollywood, Amaya Ellis is finally directing her first feature film in her hometown, unexpectedly reuniting her with Kyrie Tate, her high school sweetheart, whom she hasn't seen in decades. He wasn't just the one, he was the standard. But ambitions, dreams, and the world got in the way, and their relationship fell apart. They lost touch, moved on, or so they thought. As fate brings them together, they relive their own movie of their past love and find themselves creating a new story. Hey honeys, it's Felicia Pride, your head honey and host of It's Good Over Here with a new solo episode. And in these solo episodes, I give you a glimpse into my own adventures, big and small. So, are you ready?
Welcome, honeys in training, and all of those who love us. I'm Felicia Pride, writer, filmmaker, and founder of media and production company Honey Child, where we tell stories that speak to Black women of a certain age with love. And you are tuning into one of our things, It's Good Over Here. It's Good Over Here is your ticket to the delicious adventures in Honeyland. It's a celebration of how good it can get on the other side of 40 across career, life, and love. In each episode, we offer inspiration and insight on aging boldly because, honey, it is good over here.
Honeys, have you ever wanted to explore solo travel? Well, I finally did after 40-something years. The thing about me is I love to travel, and I've been to a lot of places. I've been to many places in the Caribbean, places in Europe, South America, Central America. Mexico is one of my favorite places. But I had never gone on vacation by myself. I think my main fear was because I would get bored and I would be lonely. But if you ever listen to Child Please, our podcast, I was inspired by my co-host, Ivy Grant. Ivy has traveled the world by herself. Like, it is her thing to take a big birthday solo trip, and she would regale us with the tales from her trip. Everybody's on a solo trip on Instagram, taking pictures by themselves and all kinds of things. And I think I got to the point at the end of last year where I was just really tired of people. Okay. Like, I was so tired of people that I was like, you know what? I'm going to go away by myself. And that kind of prompted my first ever solo trip. I decided to go to Costa Rica, which I had been to before, but I was going to go to a different area of it that I hadn't visited. And it was during Christmas. It was going to be my sort of big end of the year birthday/Christmas trip. And I realized that I wanted to go where I wanted to go, and I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I didn't want to have to consult with anyone. I didn't want to have to compromise. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. So it was like this perfect storm of reasons why now was the perfect time for me to take my first solo trip. The truth is, self-care should not be revolutionary. We need to normalize spending time with ourselves, being alone, having alone time. And mind you, I have no problem doing that in the States in my home. It is one of my favorite things to do, to be by myself in my home. But there was something about the idea of vacation that I put these parameters on it, that it had to be, more festive, more exciting, and that I could not find those things in myself. So I ended up booking a very lovely Airbnb, and I had some specific criteria that I was looking at, right? I wanted to be in a place that I could walk to a lot of things. The beach, restaurants, have a pool. So I found this lovely part of Costa Rica called Las Catalinas, which is essentially like its own little community. So it's a bunch of beautiful condos, and they almost look like estates, to be honest. has its own private beach, but they also have restaurants right on site. They have their own pool and like pool bar area. It was absolutely perfect because I also was so tired that I didn't want to do a lot of stuff. I didn't want to go a lot of places. So Las Catalinas was perfect. I highly recommend. I will say though that it was very white European. So there I felt like at times, at least the people that were staying there or living there, I wouldn't say they were living there, the people that were staying there. So there were times where I felt like they were like, how is this Negro girl also here? You know what I mean? But the Costa Rican people, as usual, were amazing and fantastic. On my solo trip, it also just reminded me that I live in a bubble in the United States, right? And so I had an experience where I was getting a ride from the airport to where I was staying, where my Airbnb was staying. And I always have asked my hosts for their recommendations on travel and airport transfers, and they're usually able to hook that up. And so I had a lovely man taking me on this journey, and he's like, yeah, it's a lot of traffic. Do you mind if I take the shortcut? And I'm like, sure, take the shortcut. The shortcut happens to be, he's like, Barry, we're just going to drive through the river. And I'm thinking over a bridge. No, we actually drive through a river. We're in the van. He is maneuvering the mess out of this van, and we are driving through a river. We pass a car that is seemingly stuck in the river. And I'm like, oh my God, are we going to get through this river? And he was just fine getting us through. And I'm like, yeah, things are different around the world. And I have to remember that when people say drive through the river, they may actually mean drive through the river. There may not be a bridge. So that was a lesson that was different. Was different for sure. I really leaned on my host for recommendations of what to do in the area. They also on site had its own wellness spa too. So she recommended going to the wellness spa. She also recommended this restaurant called Sentido Norte. She was like, you know what? For Christmas, you should book this restaurant and watch the sunset. And I was like, okay, that sounds lovely. Y'all, this was an experience, okay? So they basically, it's up on this like large cliff. They, in the golf cart from where I was staying, took me up the cliff. It was like 5 minutes away, not even 5 minutes away from on the golf cart. And it takes you up, and it is really, really high up, but they have the tables overlooking the ocean because their thing is they want you to watch the sunset, right? So your table is facing the ocean. And when I tell you, watching the sunset at this altitude in this beautiful place overlooking the water was absolutely breathtaking. And I use that word literally. It took my breath away. And I would say that was the only moment that I was like, I wish someone was here to see this with me because it was that beautiful. So I highly recommend Sentido Norte in Costa Rica. So in addition to that beautiful dinner, I did a lot of spending time by the pool and drinking because that's one of my favorite pastimes, drinking by the pool. I spent a lot of time doing nothing, sleeping, walking alongside the beach, going along the hiking paths. I would take myself to dinner every night. They had really fabulous restaurants. So I would make a reservation to a different restaurant every night. And I would just watch and sit and be with my thoughts and be with my feelings and be with my nothingness. I watched Christmas rom-coms on Netflix, and I did a lot of planning for the next year. The other thing that was so great about it is that I was looking like a hot mess the entire time. And that was freeing in its own self. Like, I didn't care how I looked. I was wearing a hat. My hair was overgrown. I was just there. I was just being. And it was so necessary. I almost got married, y'all. Okay. I almost got married. So I booked a massage at the wellness spa that was on site. I actually book a spa day at every vacation. So I've been to spas around the world. I really probably, if this writing thing doesn't work out, I will become a spa influencer because that's what I love to do, is go to spas around the world. So I booked this massage, and my masseuse is this young, very attractive Costa Rican man. I was like, okay. And he gave me this very deep massage. And I'm not talking about deep like deep tissue. I'm talking deep like energetically. Like he was locked in and I was locked in. And it was, I don't even have the words to describe it. It was, whew, when I think about it, it gives me chills. It took me to another plane. I was on another plane. It was one of the best vacations I've ever been on. And I had to kick myself because I was like, why did I wait so long to do this? And I think that's one of the things that we want to talk about on It's Good Over Here, right? Is we don't have to continue to wait or wait any longer to take advantage of the things that we want to do or the things that even scare us. Like we should be going on vacations by ourselves. We should be embarking on adventures that we always wanted to embark on, but felt we were too scared to do. Like the time is now. What I realized is that the freedom of solo travel really allows us to uncover our own desires, right? Because you've been on the girls' trip where it is a lot about compromise. It is a lot about what does the majority of the group want to do. And you may be able to go off on your own here and there, but there's just a lot of being able to take into account everybody's needs. When you go alone, you don't have to do any of that. So maybe you rest for the whole day. Maybe you nap for the whole day. Maybe you go on a hiking excursion. Whatever you want to do, it's up to you. My first solo trip changed my life. It really opened me up to the fact that I can travel wherever and whenever I want. But also, it opened me up to just my own possibilities for myself. Like, really having me interrogate the things that I say I don't want to do and that I can't do, even though I know there's a yearning there, really being able to think about that and deconstruct it and then say, fuck it, let me try it. And so I feel like is going to be producing this domino effect in my life where not only am I going to go on more solo travels, which I'll talk about in a minute, but also I'm going to start to do the things I know I want to do, even though I'm afraid. So, one, it made me, specifically, I will say that this trip to Costa Rica also solidified my wanting to live abroad. Again, if you have listened to Child Please episodes, I have talked about with Ivy the getting the compound in Costa Rica, living abroad, getting out of America. And it really helped to solidify that in a lot of ways, to the point where this year I really started to seriously pin down where I would go, what it would look like for me. That's coming up in a future episode, so stay tuned. But it really helped me to push that dream along. I will also say that now I'm planning my next solo trip. And since then, I've actually been to a solo trip. It wasn't necessarily vacation, it was kind of business and vacation to Playa del Carmen, Mexico. If you know me, you know I love Playa del Carmen. But I'm planning what my next solo trip is. I was supposed to go to Portugal this year. I wasn't able to go because I had to have surgery, which is also another future episode. Stay tuned. But I know now that I do not have to wait on anybody. And that is a life lesson, right? I don't have to wait on anybody. And so I'm super excited about what this next trip will be. I'm thinking it's going to be either Panama or Portugal. So stay tuned on what the location is. And here's the thing that I realized 20-year-old Felicia, 20-something-year-old Felicia would not have been able to do this. And when I say do this, I should say like enjoy this, right? 20-something-year-old Felicia would want to be on the scene, would want to be seen. Where's the party? Where's the, want to be just turned, for lack of a better word. But 40-something Felicia was so grateful to, one, be in the position to take this trip, right? Two, to have the space of just silence, peace, being with my thoughts. I think young Felicia would be afraid of being with her thoughts so much, right? So it was just such a nice reminder of how far I've come, that my own thoughts don't scare me, that I want to hear them, that I want to make space to hear them. I think often when we are in life, and life is lifing, it is really hard to hear ourselves, hear our thoughts, hear our intuition. And granted, I felt like in that moment I had to get away in order to do that. But I want to find ways when I'm home where I can carve out space to hear myself, to hear my thoughts, to have just stillness and silence, whether that's through increasing my meditation practice, whether that is just through reading or just being, or just, I want to find more ways to carve out space to hear my thoughts for sure. It was a beautiful, beautiful thing to just have so much peace and be okay with just being with myself, not needing other people in that way. Was something that I think that was like the undercurrent of the fear. But to be able to say, no, you're okay even abroad when you're by yourself, just gave me a lot of confidence, and a lot of hope for all the things that I can do. It does not always have to be a solo trip to Costa Rica. I want us to be doing little adventures in our life on a consistent basis. I want us to be getting into some good trouble. So, one thing that I have been wanting to do that I have not done yet is, I know you've seen on Instagram all of these, like, and they're usually in Atlanta, these group dance exercise classes where they're going hard, they're stepping, they're all the things. I am so obsessed with these classes. And so I have told myself I'm going to find one in LA, and I actually have found a center here in LA that I think does them. And I'm going to go and I'm going to do one of these classes, and I'm going to have a good time, and I'm going to get into some good trouble. I want to encourage you, honeys out there, to think about, what is that thing that you've been wanting to do but haven't done because you're afraid? And I want to encourage you to take steps towards doing that thing. And it's okay if you're afraid as you are being driven through the river. It is okay if you're afraid of, will I be bored by myself? All of those things are okay. But I just would encourage you to just take that one step. See what's on the other side of that fear.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of It's Good Over Here, a celebration of how good life can get on the other side of 40. This podcast is a Honey Child thing, so don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at It's Honey Child. Visit our website at honey-child.com and subscribe to our bi-weekly newsletter, A Taste of Honey. And for bonus content and other exclusive honey dip stories, subscribe to our Pay What You Wish Patreon, The Honeycomb. Until next time, honeys, it's good over here. You coming?
Hey, honeys, have you signed up for our newsletter? A Taste of Honey delivers right to your inbox bi-weekly and is full of honey news, conversation, and shenanigans. Sign up now at honey-child.com. That's honey-child.com.